Hello and welcome once again to the Dr. Zero Free Magic Secrets Show, where we investigate all forms of magic from all over the world history, all over the globe. And we're getting back once again to some Hebrew magical secrets, some deep stuff. Now, if you're totally clueless on the matter, there's this thing, it's called the Sefer Yetzirah. And it was composed around 50 AD, and it pretty much codified, solidified a bunch of the magical lore from Jewish circles into something of a hidden secret document passed through, clandestine hands for a while until it, circulated and became part of Kabbalistic lore. And when you talk about the Tree of Life and the Sephirot and, all this all is like the blueprint book for it. This is like the manual of the Tree of Life, at least its formation in the beginning. So what I have right here is the Sefer Yetzirah, also known as the Book of Creation. And the book is called Sefer Yetzirah in Theory and Practice, Revised Edition by Aryeh Kaplan, Aryeh Kaplan. You should look into all this dude's works. All right. So I'm just going to this is a really dense book, and it's difficult to read and translate to an audience like this because so much of it blends together. So I just kind of pulled out a couple nuggets right here that I wanted to get into. And you'll notice if you start studying tarot through the Golden Dawn Book T method and a lot of methods, you'll see, 3 elements, but there's no element earth, right? So like the trumps, right? The trumps in most tarot divination and, the occult way of doing it stands for the 7 planets, 12 zodiac signs, and 3 philosophical elements, which is fire, water, and air. And the Fool card is air. The water card is, why am I drawing a blank? Oh, the Hanged Man. And that leaves us the fire card, and that's judgment, right? And again, they're philosophical elements. They're not the physical elements. So the Sefer Yetzirah kind of like talks about how there's the philosophical way, but there's also in a physical way as well. So I'm just going to pull out this one right here. It's speaking of how these 3 elements are also manifest in the physical world apart from being philosophical. So here's what it says. In the simplest physical terms, water represents matter, fire is energy, and air is the space that allows the two to interact. Okay, so commit that to memory. That's very important. On a somewhat deeper physical level, fire, water, and air represent the 3 basic physical forces. Fire is the electromagnetic force through which all matter interacts. The atomic nucleus, however, consists of like positive charges, which would repel each other if only electromagnetism existed. There must therefore exist another force which can bind the nucleus together. This is the strong nuclear or pionic force, which binds the nucleus together, represented by water. If this nuclear force were to interact with all particles, however, all matter would be mutually attracted together, forming a solid lump denser than a neutron star. On the other hand, even within each elementary particle, there is a need for a cohesive force to counteract the electromagnetic repulsion within the particle itself. This force can be neither electromagnetic nor pionic. This is the air, which represents the weak nuclear force, which decides between the other two. It is this force that allows light particles, such as electrons, to exist. The 4th force, gravity, corresponds to Earth. Earth, however, is not a basic element, but a confluence of the other 3. It is therefore represented by the final het of the tetragrammaton, which is actually a repetition of the first het in this name. On an even more elementary level, these three elements represent the three axes in the unitary symmetry, SU3, which is the most basic property of matter. These three elements also relate to the experiential. Here, fire represents the radiation of energy, while water represents the absorption of energy. These are thesis and antithesis, giving and receiving, which themselves are manifestations of cause and effect. Air, which represents the transmission of energy, is then the synthesis, linking the two. In this aspect, fire and water also represent the psychological modes of Binah and Hokmah consciousness. As discussed earlier, fire is Binah consciousness, where the mind itself is constantly radiating energy. Water, on the other hand, is Hokmah consciousness, where the mind can absorb spiritual energy from without. Air is then Ruach HaKodesh, the medium through which such spiritual energy is transmitted. Now, I wanted to note that I think it's Hokmah, but it could be just spelled strange, but it's spelled Chakhamah. So it's like really like Chachma, but I think it's Hokmah because that would be one of the Sephirot, right? This might just be an alternate spelling. I just wanted to note that. So we got to talk about this. This is another part. It says heaven is created from fire. All right. So this is the same as the statement made above, blah, blah, blah. Our experience and depicting of the transcendental sphere must be brought into Binah consciousness. In a physical sense, fire represents radiative energy. This usually takes place by means of the electromagnetic interaction in the form of light. Heaven, quote unquote, here represents the concept of space as defined by the electromagnetic interaction, this being an important cornerstone of the principle of relativity. Fire represents Binah, and as discussed earlier, the word Binah comes from the root bain, meaning between. It is from Binah that the concept of separation comes into being. Furthermore, it is only as a result of the concept of separation that space can exist. If not for Binah, all existence would be concentrated in a single point. In the same manner, Earth is created from water. Earth represents the solid state, where matter exists with a minimum of space separating its molecules. This stems from Hokmah, which tends to minimize separation and distance. In a gas such as air, the molecules tend to fly apart and separate. Yet at the same time, they are held together just sufficiently to give the gas substance. Gas is therefore always in a state of contained expansion. This is intermediate between the containment of solid matter and the total expansion of pure radiation. Fire is represented by the letter Shin. Shin is the dominant letter in the word Esh, meaning fire. It is joined with the Aleph, representing air, because a fire cannot exist without air. The three heads of the Shin also suggest the flames of the fire. The hissing sound of this letter, furthermore, is like the hiss of a flame. The three heads of the Shin are separated, suggesting the general concept of separation. Corresponding to the Shin is the letter He, which is only one of the two letters in the alphabet consisting of two disconnected parts. Water is represented by the letter Mem. Here again, Mem is the dominant letter in the word Ma'im, meaning water. Indeed, the very name of the letter Mem comes from the word Ma'im. Mem is also a closed letter, indicating containment and unity. It is also sounded with the mouth closed. It parallels the letter Yud, which is written as a single point. Air is represented by Aleph, since it is the initial letter of Avir, meaning air. Aleph is a silent letter, whose sound is as undetectable as the invisible air. In shape, it consists of an upper right and a lower left dot, representing two polar opposites. with a diagonal line in the middle, which both separates and connects the two. Now, I wanted to talk a bit about this other section, which is about angels and 7 planets and the stars and how they all kind of interrelate together. Now, the tricky thing about what I'm about to read is there are a lot of graphic tables that really lay out what all the symbols mean and all that. I obviously cannot communicate that. And, I'm hoping that you do pick up this book because it is essential. If you're going to know what Jewish magic is all about, you need this book. You can't get around it. If you study Kabbalah, if you study the Tree of Life, or you want to know, if you want to even understand how the Qliphoth works, you need to see how the other side works, because the only way you're going to make these parts fit together. See, that's the big magic, secret black magic guys listening right now. If you don't read this book, you're never going to figure out how the Qliphoth works. Nobody's going to just tell you that. But if you ran into the Dr. Zeero Free Magic Secret Show, you caught it right now. So those are the keys to the kingdom, and I'm going to continue onward here. As soon as I'm just going to sip my coffee. I was going to stop this recorder, but you guys can just wait a second, right? Just pretend there's some elevator music in your head right now. Black coffee. So, back at it. The quote is, I don't want to read that off. But 7 doubles, BGDKPRT of foundation. He engraved them, he carved them, he permuted them, he weighed them, he transformed them. And with them, he formed 7 planets in the universe, 7 days in the year, 7 gates in the soul, male and female. He engraved them. The 5 methods mentioned here are the same as those in blah, 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 blah. 7 planets. The 7 vertical planet, start again. The 7 vertical paths associated with the 7 doubles are manifest in the physical world as the astrological forces associated with the 7 planets: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. Now, if you know what we understand or what we mean by doubles, there's all kinds of like weird trickery with the Hebrew language. Like if you don't know, each single Hebrew letter is like an entire magical system and form of magic in and of themselves, with their own crazy number magic hitched to them, and their own the lessons, the way they're formed, the way like there's got all this crazy stuff connected to every single letter. And some of the letters are doubles, some are singles, and if I'm correct, some are triples. That would be the Shin, Mem, and Aleph, if I'm right. Although I could be off because I'm a little confused by all this stuff, but just filling in the blanks there. So I also wanted to say marijuana is a great thing. You should smoke more often. Sometimes you get a little lost like you do now, but hey, I know you guys are all stoned out there too, probably, if you're listening to this gibberish from Dr. Zeero. So anyway, back at it. In time, the doubles are associated with the 7 days of the week. The doubles and the planets, blah, blah, blah. They are associated with the 7 days of the week. While in man, they are the 7 openings in the head. These will be enumerated in the following sections. So we're talking about the 7 openings of the head for, mystical union, So the Talmud, it's another famous Jewish writings. The Talmud also speaks of the various influences of the planets and days of the week. These are closely related to their role in creation and do not appear to follow the system of the Sefer Yetzirah. The 7 planets are also associated with specific angels. And then there's a wonderful table of them all. I can't really explain it, but these angels channel the influence of the 7 vertical paths through the planets. Also associated with the 7 planets are specific signs, as well as a system of magic squares. The rule of 7 also appears to be related to the mystical 7 seals mentioned by the early Kabbalists. In order to understand the significance of the astrological forces, we must first understand the role of angels in the chain between the Sephirot and the physical world. The Sephirot are in the universe of Atzilut, and below this is Beriah, the universe of the throne, which serves to allow the Sephirot to interact with the lower worlds. Between Beriah and Asiya is Yetzirah, the world of the angels. Yetzirah is known as the world of speech. The Talmud states that every word emanating from God creates an angel. This means that every one of God's words is actually an angel. When we speak of God's word, we are actually speaking of his interaction with the lower worlds. The force that traverses the spiritual domain is what we call an angel. The stars also form an important link in God's providence over the physical world. Between God and man, there are many levels of interaction, the lowest being those of the angels and the stars. The Midrash thus teaches there is no blade of grass that does not have a constellation, mazal, over it, telling it to grow. As the commentaries explain, God's providence works through the angels, but these angels in turn work through the stars and planets. As some authorities put it, the angels are, in a sense, like souls to the stars. Thus, for example, some sources speak of the stars as having intelligence, but the commentaries note that this is actually speaking of the angels that are associated with them. There are, however, two types of angels. We have already spoken of the teaching that there are angels created with every word of God. Elsewhere, we find that angels are created every day, with a new troop being made each morning. On the other hand, there are many angels who are known by name, such as Gabriel or Michael, who have permanent existence. These are obviously a second kind of angel. This is closely related to another discussion. In the Midrash, there is a question as to when the angels were created. Some say that they were made on the second day of creation, while others maintain that they were created on the fifth day. In discussing this, the Kabbalists arrive at a significant conclusion. They state that there are two basic kinds of angels, permanent angels and temporary angels. The temporary angels were created on the second day, while the permanent ones, which are likened to the birds, were created on the fifth. They also state that an important difference between the permanent and temporary angel is the fact that only the permanent ones have names. One of the most important factors in astrology is the time and date of a person's birth. The Talmud thus states that there is a mazal of the hour. The time, day, and date upon which a person is born has an important influence on his destiny. Elsewhere, the Talmud teaches that there is an angel called Layla that oversees birth. It is this angel that proclaims if the individual will be strong or weak, wise or foolish, rich or poor. Earlier, however, we discussed the Midrashic teaching. One angel cannot have two missions, and two angels cannot share the same mission. But if this is a general rule, how can a single angel oversee the birth of every person who is ever to be born? Does this not mean he has many missions? The same question also applies to all the permanent angels who have names. These angels, which were created on the fifth day, exist forever. In the course of their existence, they must have many tasks and missions. Why does this rule not hold true with regard to them? In answering these questions, the commentaries note that the angels are like souls to the stars. A human soul is also a spiritual entity, and the same question could be asked about it. How can a single soul be involved in many tasks? But here the answer is obvious. The soul is integrated by its association with a single body. It is not differentiated into many souls by its many tasks, because its association with the body allows it to remain an integrated whole. The same is true of the angels having names. These angels are like souls to the stars, and this also means that the stars and planets are the bodies of these angels. As such, Each star serves as a focus for a particular angel, maintaining it as an integrated whole, even though it may have many different tasks. There is, therefore, a one-to-one relationship between the stars and the angels. Each star has its own particular angel, and each angel has its own star. It is this relationship that allows the named angels to have many tasks and still not be differentiated into many angels by these tasks. Each named angel is integrated by the star that serves as its body. This also explains why the permanent angels have names. The Zohar teaches that every single star in the universe has a name. This is derived from the verse, "He brings out their host by number. He calls them all by name." Isaiah 40:26. It is also written, "He counts the number of the stars. He gives them each a name." Psalms 147:4. The Midrash indicates that the different names of the stars correspond to the names of the different angels. The one-to-one relationship is therefore clearly expressed. This also explains why the named angels were created on the 5th day, while the unnamed temporary angels were created on the 2nd day. The named angels were associated with the stars and could therefore not be created until after the stars. The stars were not created until the 4th day, and the angels could therefore not be created until the 5th. So, that is your lesson today from the Dr. Zeero Free Magic Secret Show, where magic is always free. And sometimes you got to pay to get a book, but let me tell you, you really want this. So if you somehow want to write it down again with a little piece of paper or whatever, just again, the author is Aryeh Kaplan, Aryeh Kaplan, and this is the Sefer Yetzirah, Book of Creation in Theory and Practice, the revised edition. And you can find it used on eBay for, $25 usually, around there. If you can find, that's usually the cheapest I've seen it. So, as always, hit the subscribe button. Let people know I exist. When you go to the bar, you go to the big fat slammin' rave party, or you go to the heavy metal concert, or wherever you go, and you're hanging out with your buddies, and they're like, "Hey, I'm a dude who is into witchcraft and magic and occult stuff, like blah, blah, blah." Be like, "Yo, here's the hottest unknown show preaching magic awesomeness this side of YouTube." And let them know I exist, have them subscribe, show them what's up. That'd be very helpful because, Doc Zeero wants to be a voice in space and all your ears just buzzing and buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. So all that is said, there's nothing new to say, and you know what's up. As always, just for you wacky kids out there, here's a hot rockin' outro just for you. Okay, bye-bye.